Okay, so in this video we'll be talking about vertical integration as a grand strategy, and I'll just give us a brief history of how we got here. So all supply chains have gone through various revolutions, and every firm has had two goals. The first one is to reduce their cost of operation or their cost of material acquisition in the supply chain. But as they reduce the cost, they have what you call flexibility without compromising what we call supply chain visibility. I'll talk about this later when we'll be talking about the Apple case. Now, we say that in sourcing or in supply chains, we have what you call domain. Let's just start with the revolution. Let's just start with the revolutions. So we have one. The first revolution was in 1910 to 1920, and this we call the Ford supply chain. The second one was 1950 to 1960. This was the Toyota supply chain. The third one was between 1995 to 2000, and this we call the Dell supply chain. Now, to help you understand the difference and vertical integration of a strategy, let's look at Ford. Ford basically was what you call a vertically integrated firm. They owned the whole supply chain end to end. They basically owned everything. That means they owned the iron ore, they owned the refinery, they owned the assembly, they owned the distribution shops, they owned the retailer and the repair shops. Then we have the customer on this end. From top to bottom, everything was owned and run by Ford. Now, this is a basic integrated firm, because if this is the focal firm over here, this is the focal firm over here, this is the backward section, and this is the forward section. It means basically that they have taken control of each and every step in their value addition process. Now, it took, we spoke about this last time, it took at least 81 hours to convert the ore into a car. By today's standards, this is very, very slow, but then it seemed to be fast. The other problem with this thing was it was very rigid. Ford could only give you a color, and this was black, a model, and this was Model T. Now, the rigidity meant that Ford did not have variety to offer to the customer, hence a limited customer experience. Now, Toyota comes into play and they say, it is not a must you integrate your supply chain. You can give this section over here to other suppliers, and they use what you call Keiretsu system. Let me just write that. Keiretsu system. And this is a system where you enter into long-term agreements with your suppliers, and you bring these suppliers closer to your premises so that the time it will take to fulfill those orders is less. Now, the problem, again, the advantage of this system is that they did not own the whole system. They did not own everything. So they were very, very flexible in terms of what they could do. Again, the cost was not as high because they could allow their suppliers to fight against each other. But let's see what the advantage is here. It's only Toyota that could be able to do this. Take a Ranex, play around with it and call it Alex. Take a Noah, play around with it, call it a Voxy. Take another model, a Vitz, play around with it, then call it something else. It's basically the same car. The only thing that is changing is the bodywork or the chassis. Now, if that is the case, then they had a very good advantage of giving variety to their customers, but there was one problem. The problem was complacency of the suppliers, because you have given them contracts that are ranging between 15 years to 20 years, and there were serious engineering challenges because of this. And this came when you had a brand called Mark II that had a sticking gas pedal, and people were involved into in accidents because of this. This is an example of a clear issue of complacency. So Dell comes into the market and says the Ford supply chain was a push system where you produce, push the product through marketing down the throat of the customers. Toyota, the same thing, produce, push the products to the customer through marketing. So Dell decided, since the problem with our electronic industry is that the rate of depreciation of the asset is very, very high, ranging around 0.04% per week. It should be per week. Yes, per week. It means that the probability of having dead stock in your premises is very high, and Nokia almost shut down because of this mistake, where they are holding items and these items are losing value very, very fast, because the phone that will be in fashion at a certain point will not be the same in the next cycle, and so forth and so forth. So they decided to create what you call the fast system, called make to order system, and this is where you do nothing until the customer orders. That removes the distributor and that removes the retailer. Now the advantage of this system is that it offered a personalized experience to the customers, but in a way it had its challenges, because in case of stockouts or in case of supply chain lead time delays, then customers will probably switch to their competitors. But this system alone helped Dell to be so competitive that HP had to merge with Compaq to be able to compete within the PC industry section. Now, if there are key takeaways over here, vertical integration is good if you're looking for control, but it is bad if you're looking for cost advantages and flexibility. Therefore, if the product in question is a functional product and not an innovative product, I'll repeat, if the product is a functional product and not an innovative product, a functional product is a product whose demand is certain. For example, wheat is a functional product. We are always cooking. Unga is a functional product. We always need it. Soap is a functional product. We need it. Milk is a functional product. If you're dealing with a functional product, not an innovative one, whose core is very dynamic and keeps on changing, then you have the options of using what you call a vertically integrated system. But to be more competitive, a disintegrated system is way better compared to this. So that's it for vertical integration. Let us just go to the other two videos before we wrap up. Thank you.